On today's show, we have our guest David Gola back, and we're going to be talking about the Orthodox concept of Prelest, the spiritual disease. How do we really understand this, and just what does this word mean in the Orthodox faith? David Gola?
Good to see you. I sometimes say that religion is a bit like sex. It's an area of life that has deep meaning associated with it. And as a result, it can also be the area that is most abused and most misused. So the word Prelest is a Russian word, and it means a kind of spiritual delusion. So there are, it can happen that religious people, and this occurs across religious traditions, become deeply diseased. And so they begin to fantasize. They begin to have delusions. They see God as speaking directly to them in a kind of one-on-one relationship. They become completely possessed by particular notions of behavior, which may in and of themselves be good, but they're so possessed by these notions that their desire for what is perfect becomes the enemy of what is good. So I suppose that this is a tough area, because it's an area where the understanding of the spiritual fathers and mothers of the church is rubbing right up against mental illness, serious mental illness.
Well, the concept to me, it sounds very similar to the concept of, it's like in psychology, projection and transference, where you blame others for your own failings or your own flaws.
Right, yeah.
So it seems very similar.
It's an ancient form of trying to diagnose that, and also of another part of it, which is your idealizations, your kind of spiritual idealizations, and you then take the measure of other people around your understanding of what is spiritually ideal. The danger of that, of course, is we so often don't even know ourselves, much less knowing the movement of the heart of other people. So it is a condition of illness. So instead of becoming angry with it, I think we need to be compassionate with it. We need to understand that this is a deep dis-ease in a person, and it has its own kind of roots, and we have to hope that if we try to speak to it, we can find a word that might help heal it, or, I expect more often than not, just realize that this is something that's too complicated for us, and we need to, if we can, help this person get some kind of serious professional help. We have in the Orthodox Church, as you know, a monastic tradition. We have a tradition of understanding that there's a value for people within their spiritual life to have a spiritual father or a spiritual mother. But these are dangerous concepts. There are I've known some, there are certainly monks and priests that imagine themselves to be spiritual fathers or mothers. They take it on as a role, as if that's what it is, but it's not that. If we read what the tradition says about being a spiritual father or a spiritual mother, the primary thing it says is if you think you are, you aren't. This is not a professional role that comes along with seminary training and ordination to the priesthood. This is a profound journey. It's a journey that requires and can only come to fruition if you have come to the bottom of your life as well. To the very bottom of your life. And I know of no spiritual master in the Christian East that ever made such a claim. So the idea is significant, which is, in matters of the spiritual life, it's very important not to take yourself as your master. But it's also very dangerous when you are invited by somebody with the appearance of authority who suffers from Prelest to become their disciple. You then have a cult. And
That makes sense.
cults are dead ends, spiritual dead ends.
What should one do if one feels they're suffering from Prelest? Or you see someone you believe has Prelest themselves. What should be done if you believe you yourself suffer from this malady?
Well, if you sense it within yourself, you're on the road to recovery.
By simply admitting you have a problem.
If you see it, if you can see it. Yeah, if you can see it, that's the beginning of that's the beginning of turning around. But it requires work, because these patterns are usually pretty deep in us. So it requires, the Orthodox tradition really only has two disciplines, prayer and fasting. So the prayer, I should think, would be to ask the lover of the world for humility, so that you don't presume about others. And the fasting, I'm inclined to think, would be that when you sense within yourself that this spiritual delusion associated with your assessment of somebody else is beginning to rise in you, that you fast from it, that you make the sign of the cross. You do not speak. You swallow your tongue. And you do not give room for the delusion to be spoken into the world, particularly when it is spoken into the world over against another human being.
Slander.
Well, slander, or it can be just presumption that you know what their spiritual life should be, and they don't.
This is what's wrong with this person. This is how this person should live their life.
Right. Yeah.
This person should quit. This person needs to move to that city. This person needs to marry that person.
Of course.
This person needs to listen to that person.
Or all sorts of things like that. And all of those are delusions. Some of them more harmful than others.